to a new series called Let's Talk. So I wanted to start this series because I wanted a kind of vlog that gave me the chance to address some more important things that I feel need addressing on my channel. And today I want to talk about something that I, and probably many other customizers, get asked about a lot, and it is taking commissions. Now, just before people start typing away in the comments saying, can I commission this from you, I just want to say that don't get your hopes up, because this video is actually talking about why I don't take commissions. And I just want to say right from the very beginning that I do not currently take commissions or requests to make customs for people, and I have no plans now or for the foreseeable future to take on any commissions or request-based work to make any customs for anybody. However, I am aware that people are disappointed by this. Since I've been on YouTube and before, I have had people coming to me asking me if I can make things for them, and when I say no, some people are happy to accept it, others not so much. And so that's the reason for doing this video today. I want to explain my reasons as to why I don't take commissions, so that you all might have a better understanding of exactly why I don't do this. Now, the simplest way to explain why I don't take commissions is just to say I don't want to. However, I realise that that still doesn't really explain things very well. When it comes to customs, it comes down to three things: time, cost, and customer factor. And so to make my reasons as clear as possible, I'm going to explain each of these individually for you. So first off, let's start with time. At the moment, and I hope for many years to come, customs building is something that I do as a hobby in my free time. As I've mentioned in my customs Q&A, even something such as painting the spheres on just one side of a Dalek can take up to 2.5 hours. And once you realise this, you start to realise exactly how long a much more complex custom that involves chopping and changing parts and scratch building things could potentially take. For this reason, when I'm making customs, I don't set myself a time limit. I simply do them until they're finished, because that's half the fun of it. I can just go to it whenever I want to, and it's very relaxing for me. However, if I started taking commissions, it would no longer be a hobby. It would be a paid job. As such, I would have to set myself time limits in which to finish them, and it would mean that a lot of the fun that comes with customs building as a hobby would get taken out of it for me. On top of that, it means I would have to utilise my free time to make these commissions. As much as I would like it to be one day, YouTube is not currently something that I can make a living off yet, and as such, it means I've got to have a day-to-day job like everyone else. This means by taking on commissions that I would then have to do in my free time, it would leave me no free time to continue customs making as a hobby, and as such, I would probably start to lose my passion in it. This could very well then start to show in the quality of the commissions that I would take on, and the last thing that I would want to do is make commissions for people below the quality that I know I'm capable of. Next up is cost. Now this varies extremely from custom to custom, so the numbers that I'm about to give you are very roughly worked out and rounded up, but it should still give you an idea of exactly what has to go into making a custom. So for an example, let's say somebody wants me to make this custom for them. It's a Magician's Apprentice and Witch's Familiar repainted Dead Planet Dalek. Firstly, I have to buy this base Dalek myself, and as I buy most of my spares online, it means that I've got to pay to have it shipped to me. For a Dalek like this, I would expect to pay anywhere between £10 to £20, so let's call it 15. And then obviously, assuming that it wasn't free shipping, I would then have to pay, say, £5 extra shipping, which means in total I've already had to pay £20 out of my own pocket for somebody else's commission. Now that is something that I would ask for as a deposit, because it means if I go and buy the parts and then the person changes their mind and doesn't want the custom anymore, I've then got to be able to recoup my losses that I've already made by buying the parts. Then comes the actual custom making process, which in this case would just be an overall repaint. However, you've got to remember that in making a custom, I'm having to use parts and materials such as paints and other things that again, I'm having to buy myself. At this point, I would add on a materials commission. This would be an amount added to each custom that helps me get the funds towards buying more materials for other customs in future. Even at the simplest level of buying the cheapest materials I can find, this would still probably be about £10, so by now, the charge is up to 30. Next would come my commission, which plain and simple is the personal profit that I would make on each of the customs. Now ideally, in order to make it financially viable for me, I would need to make at least £10 to £20 profit on each custom that I make. Now I'm sure some people would say that's too much, but ultimately, as I'm the one putting the work in, I would ask what I feel is right. So once you add all those things together, the price for this custom as a commission is now potentially up to £50. Lastly, there would be the shipping cost to the buyer. I would want to make sure that the item reached the buyer, so that would mean using a tracked service, and for those who've used tracked postal services, you will know that they are not cheap. Again, this is something that would depend on the size and weight of the custom, but for now, let's say shipping costs total to another £10. That means if overall somebody wanted me to make this for them as a commission, it would potentially cost £65. However, in reality, only £20 of that would go into my pocket. The rest of it would go to recouping the losses that I've had to spend in order to make this commission. Once you start thinking about more elaborate customs that might include more parts, potentially from different sellers, meaning more postage costs that I've got to pay, and more modifications that means even more materials that I've got to buy, it's not not hard to see how the prices of these commissions could start climbing up into the hundreds, again bearing in mind that only £20 of that would come to me as profit. As much as I wish there was, there is no cheap resource centre for customs parts, so ultimately, if I was to take on commissions, the plain and simple fact is that I could not sell them cheaply without losing money. Lastly, we come to the customer factor. The plainest and simplest way to put this is that there are people out there, and I appreciate that this is not everyone, and I certainly like to think that it is not including anybody who watches my videos, but there are people out there who basically want something for nothing, or they think that they shouldn't have to pay what everyone else does. When I have sold customs on eBay before, I have had people messaging me asking to buy the custom for far less than it's listed. And if I had a commissions price list, I could guarantee that I would have people messaging me saying, oh, well, I'm interested in that one, but I don't want to pay XXX amount for it. As I previously said, I'm pretty sure there are people out there who would think that I am overcharging for a custom with the prices that I talked about earlier. But in my experience, when people think that, it's because they genuinely don't understand how much money has to go into making a custom, or the simple fact is that they just don't want to have to pay that much for it. The other side of the customer factor is that there would be people, and again, I am not saying this if I think anyone who watches my videos, but there would be people who would message me asking for constant updates on the progress of their commission, or potentially even asking if I could finish it sooner than the time that I would have quoted them. Luckily, I don't have to deal with people like that very often, and again, I want to stress that personally, I don't think I've ever met anybody who comments on my videos that would fall into this category. From my experience of getting comments and responding to them, it seems that generally people are very friendly. Once you begin to add all these things together, you might start to understand what a great undertaking this would be, and potentially how stressful it could be for me. Obviously, I've put a lot of thought into this, so even if it wasn't an issue, it would be foolish of me to ignore things like the customer factor that could potentially be an issue if I was taking on commissions. Now, after everything that I've just said, there is always the possibility of me taking on commissions in future. However, and that is a big however, if I was going to take on customs commissions, then I would need some things to happen in my life, and to be honest, the chances of them happening at present time are very unlikely, and there is very unlikely that they will happen in the foreseeable future. Firstly, I would need YouTube to become my full-time job, not just because it's my dream, but it would mean that I would be working from home, and as such, I would have a lot more free time. More than enough to take on customs as commissions, and also enough time to carry on making customs myself in my free time. However, and there's that big however again, I would need upward of 100,000 subscribers in order to make a living off YouTube. So unless I become a sensation overnight, I would not expect this to happen anytime soon. Secondly, I would need to draw up a proper plan of how I would take commissions. Off the top of my head, I would only take so many a month on a first come, first served basis. However, concerning everything that I have just talked about and more off the top of my head, such as a deposit protection for buyers, price listings, and potentially arranging a specific source for parts, it would take years of planning to get things just right before I can actually start taking commissions. I've often said, including at the start of this video, that the reason that I don't take commissions is it's simply not something that I'm willing to do. And that still stands, but hopefully now you have a better understanding of exactly why I'm not willing and don't want to do it. In closing, I would just like to say something not just for my benefit, but for the benefit of all other customizers out there who feel the same. It really means a lot when people ask for commissions, because it feels like such an honour that you think our work is so good that you actually want to buy it. Unfortunately, of course, not everyone is willing to take on commissions, so if they do say no, I simply ask that you respect their wishes and their right not to take on commissions if they don't want to. And that really brings to a close my first Let's Talk. I do have a few other things that I would like to address in future, and I'm sure more will crop up as time goes on, but for now, let me just say, as always, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, favourite, subscribe, share, it really helps me out a lot. I salute you all, and I will see you with another video very soon.